Was anybody here last year when I lit the building on fire? Great. It's going to be even worse. I'm going to be totally insufferable this year because as opposed to last year when Uber was trading at $30 a share, not 90, and I wasn't podcast famous, I now am extremely, as I tell people, I'm extremely famous and rich, so you have to listen to what I say. No. There is a little bit of that. It's kind of weird in the world when once I made the Uber and Robinhood investments, I couldn't believe how many people thought I was smart. And before that, how many people thought I was annoying. Now they just think I'm annoying and smart. But it's great to be back. And as you know, they have a rule. You can only speak like once every couple of years. But since I did so well last year, they asked me to come back, and I was thrilled to do it. So my alter ego, Calacanis, is here. And I am going to talk to you about the future. I have a very unique job. I do 4 podcasts a week where I talk to the people who are investing in and creating the future, founders and capital allocators, angel investors, venture capitalists. And then during these podcasts, and then I also invest. So my firm Launch gets 20,000 applications for funding. I have 21 people. 11 or 12 of them are on the investment team. So every day, they meet with hundreds of companies a week. They review tens of thousands of applications, and they sort them based on my 14-point criteria, the ones that they think are going to change the world, and then I get to read that. And so I'm not the smartest guy in the room by a long shot, but I do have a lot of information, so I'm going to share that with you today. And I thought I'd take a little victory lap. Last year when I spoke, we were 92 days away from Trump winning, and 15 days after Biden formally dropped out. And the Calacanis joke happened because about 4 or 5 months before Biden dropped out, I said they're going to hot swap them, which is a technical term when you change hard drives for the techies in the room. And sure enough, they did. Now, anybody who follows me on social media knows I've been slightly critical of our amazing, extraordinary president. I don't want to get deported. And I got business to do. Let's be candid. We all got business to do. What a difference a year makes. Just last week, I was in D.C. and got to meet POTUS for the first time in person. He was on the podcast. And sound up.
Even as we know, Jason Calacanis. I say even. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Yeah, he's a good person.
The reason this is so funny is because I gave him a bit of a hard time on the podcast. I was pretty about immigration, Roe v. Wade and overturning that. And I challenged him, and we'll get into party affiliation later, but man, things have changed a lot in a year. If we look at economic indicators, last year OpenAI was trading between 50 and 150 billion, so I just put 100 billion here. It's now at 300 billion, so 200 billion in value created in 1 year. Inflation's about the same, ticked down a little bit. But the S&P and the NASDAQ are up significantly in 1 year. Last year, I talked about a number of predictions, and I'll just go through them very quickly here. Gold star, gold medal here for what we got right. And then a lot of these are still in process, but career disillusionment, we see a lot of young people who are wondering about their careers. We'll talk about it today. Static team size we talked about. The max 7, if you look at a company like Uber, Airbnb, which is like the mid 7, and then you go to the Microsoft, Googles, they have less employees today than they did 4 years ago, or the same. But their earnings have gone up, typically double or triple. LLM-based career extinction was something I talked about. I give myself half credit for that. We'll talk about it more today. Remote work arbitrage, moving jobs around the planet, and layoff anxiety. I think I might have gotten those wrong, or they're slightly have been corrected. Other things we got right last year, the wrath of Lina Khan has ended. We now are allowed to buy and sell companies, and we don't have Lina Khan to predict the future and tell us, you can't buy that company because in the future you might have a competitive advantage. I'm in venture capital. I make 100 bets a year. I have no idea which one's going to win. If you told me my top 2 trading apps, my top 2 companies would be an app that lets you trade stocks for free and a cab company, I didn't know that. And a meditation company is my 3rd best investment, Calm. There's no idea to know that. And we were deep in distribution dire straits. How many venture capitalists or private equity guys in the room, gals, okay, great. We had no distribution. We're going to talk about that today as well. Sovereign's taking a seat at the table has been amazing. My wife and I were watching a Knicks game, and she said, "Is that Mubadala?" And I said, "The company, you know, the people you know in the UAE and Abu Dhabi." I said, "Yeah. Why are they sponsoring the Knicks?" I said, "I don't know, but they're here. They're sponsoring the Knicks." Venture trimming down. I think the venture industry is bouncing along the bottom. We're going to start to see that reverse. And VCs buying deals, maybe not happening as much. On the predictions in technology, SaaS has really struggled. If you're selling on a per-seat basis and people have the same number of employees, how are you going to grow your business? So we're now moving in venture and in startups to consumption-based or outcome-based pricing. It's really hard to sell into a company and say, we're going to solve this problem for you, here's what we want to get paid. The end of organic and search, that came out really true. We're seeing that all over the place. Purpose-built robots, and back to the Bay. The Bay Area is on fire again after just totally cratering for a couple of years. And OpenAI versus closed AI, will they be able to flip that company from a nonprofit into a for-profit? We'll see. TBD. And then looking at the world, recruitment versus immigration is an explosive topic, I know, and we're right in the middle of that. The end of the China trade was probably what we got correct massively last year because we've totally decoupled. China is no longer the most populous country in the world. It's India. They have population decline, and they got serious issues. It's like 3 or 4 people. Next year, it'll be like 30 people will have been discussing this. And the de-dependency is happening in a major way. Isolationism, protecting your borders, protecting your trade. Man, we nailed that one as well. Regulatory rifts. It seems like Trump's going to get rid of as many regulations as possible, and we're going to just drill, baby, drill, and pollute the environment. Earnings will go up. Thank you. Public market investor. You're excited about it, aren't you? Good, okay. You can be excited. Okay, here's a big, bold prediction for you. Commodification of LLMs. We're in a major race now, and it's a massive dogfight. Every 2 or 3 months, somebody has the best model. And right now, it's XAI, my friend Elon's company, is number 1. But we'll see Anthropic and Gemini, even maybe open source, offshore, DeepSeek, OpenAI. This is going to keep swinging around. I think we might be sitting here next year, and these will be indistinguishable products. They're kind of feeling that way already. How many people here use, let me say, 3 or more LLMs a week? Raise your hand if you use 3 or more a week. Okay, so maybe I'm right already, or this is the tip of the spear. You're all pretty advanced folks. That was the entire room. How many people use more than 5 LLMs a week? Okay, it's like a third of the audience. So that's a pretty significant one. ChatGPT is migrating to agents, and most of you probably haven't set up an agent yet to do things. Has anybody set up an agent to do anything? I might call on you and ask you. Okay, it looks like about half. That's pretty powerful. 2 really interesting examples is the Comet browser by Perplexity, which I'm running right now, which allows you to do very interesting things. When you're in your browser and you have the browser reading your LLM, you're authenticated. You can't ask ChatGPT or Grok to go out in the world and buy you a ticket to something. But when you're authenticated on your browser, those websites don't know you're using an LLM because the LLM is manifesting itself in a browser. Anybody here using Comet by chance? 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. So you'll all be using it in 6 months or a similar product. And what it does is it just hangs out and does things next to you. I'll show you an example.
The prompting operator with the links to the Google spreadsheets that you need to work with is something that takes a few seconds. This is where operator shines because it's so simple and it figures out all the details on its own. So this is the example. I asked it to copy data from a Google sheet to another spreadsheet, and then it asked me, hey, do you have the links to the sheets? And I actually created 2 Google sheets for it and gave these to them, but just asked me for permission to paste the data. And then I followed up and wanted to create a visualization and a forecast for the next 10 years and to place the charts in a new tab. So what you can see on screen right now is the entire process. And so copy pasting the data, flawless. I actually ran a few more examples of this. Every time it came to copy pasting,
that's not him.
To another, it does really
That's
well at
an OpenAI operator agent doing his instructions in a Google sheet. Now, this is probably the weakest person who's getting fired from KPMG this week in terms of skill level. But next year it'll be like, probably like, whatever, the 50th percentile, and in 5 years it might be as good as the best person. Which means one person's going to be able to do a lot of work because you could have 3 or 4 multi-table windows open and have it doing stuff. Here's another example.
A 4-star hotel from Hotels.com. I told it a date. I told it how much I want to spend. I want to have indoor pool. So let's send this out. Okay, so you went to hotels.com on a Chrome tab, and right here, it actually shows you what it's doing. It's kind of showing you how it's thinking through it. So I do like that. A lot of the times when you use kind of the step-by-step thinking mode, and you could kind of expand that out to get an overview of how it's thinking in the background. Now, at this point, I have to manually take over, right? So I could just take over the browser here, and I could then put in my payment information.
Okay, so what he was doing there, if it's not completely obvious, is he gave the LLM instructions. Excuse me, I'm going to just put my timer on. And stopwatch. It went out and did a bunch of things while he's authenticated. I did this myself with the Comet browser, and it was able to get me a United ticket, put it in my basket. I was logged in already. It asked me if I wanted lounge access. I said yes. It went and redid that. And it's a really fascinating product because you're watching it open windows and do things. Now, if you're a developer, you could do this yourself, and developers do this kind of stuff all the time. But the other 96% of humans working in business are not developers, and they're going to be able to do these things. This is a level of efficiency that we are underestimating. And so the idea that you're going to be chatting, yes, for half your searches you will. But the other half, when you're at your desktop, you're going to be running agents. And really that brings up the question, where are you going to start? Who's going to win the start? And I've been thinking about this a lot. Right now, 99% of our activity is either our phones or our desktops or laptops. And that's up for grabs. And so is it going to be your smartphone? Possibly. Is it going to be a smartphone that's a dumb smartphone that just opens up a chat window with no apps on it? That's a possibility. And I think that's why Johnny Ive is at OpenAI. My Tesla just got Grok, and I literally just asked it through pressing one button, give me a vocabulary test, and it was asking me words, and I was trying to guess the definitions, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, it's just built into my desktop. And then it said, or into my dashboard, and then it said, sync this with your Grok account, took a picture, went into the Tesla app, and then automatically connected them. So now when I'm on my desktop, I can see that vocabulary test that I was doing in the car. So then I instructed it, anytime I get in my car, when I'm driving to work, do the vocabulary test, because I want to increase my vocabulary so I can use big words. Because people correlate that with intelligence, and then you're going to be more loved. Microsoft Copilot, maybe that's what wins. There's this concept of a puck that they've been talking about, where you drop this puck on the table and it records everything. I don't know how to pronounce this. EYO, anybody know this company? Spun out of Google's lab, Sergey's lab, but those are actually earpieces. It's hard to see, and they're kind of like a combination of the AI pendant, which I went to dinner. I have a Thursday night dinner in Austin with founders I do. If you're ever in Austin, hit me up. And somebody showed up with one of these pendants on, and it was glowing. And I said, excuse me, why is that glowing? And they said, oh, this is my AI pendant. And I said, oh, what does it do? And he took out his phone, and he showed me the transcript of us talking for 20 minutes. And he said, is that a problem? And I said, only if you want to remain friends. And we've had some early swings at this. You remember Google Glass? People got punched in the face for having that on the dance floor. It's a true story. I didn't punch the person. It happened in the Mission in San Francisco. The Humane AI pen, really interesting concept. That's gone. I want a bangle. I'm kind of more of a Wonder Woman guy. I just think the bangle would be the ultimate one for me. But AGI is here. I think most people would debate this, but if we think about general intelligence, what we all do every day as humans, I think we're soaking in it right now. I think we're just right at the 50% mark. How many people think we've achieved artificial general intelligence? How many people think we'll achieve it in the next 2 years? Okay, great. So we're soaking in it. Perfect. What really most people are playing for is superintelligence. You wouldn't be putting in $10 billion, $100 billion worth of data centers if it was just for AGI. Although AGI is probably back of the envelope math. I think most companies will spend $50 a month, and there's 1 billion people on the planet working professionally that could spend that. So it's probably a TAM of $50 billion a month, $600 billion, which is 10 times, 20 times that in market cap. There's probably $10 trillion in market cap just in AGI. But superintelligence is asking questions we don't know to ask and answering questions that we may not want to know the answer to. And that's coming. Of course, if that does happen, it could very quickly turn into Skynet, and that's the science fiction sort of piece we're at right now. But I think we're at AGI. And if we look at the next jobs to go, Video editors, software developers, and graphic designers are the ones I'm looking at. Why? They take a little bit of artistry, they're well paid, and I'll also send everybody the deck so you have it if you don't want to take 50 pictures. The graphic, but you can take pictures. The graphic designers, I think right now to be a good graphic designer, you can take 5 minutes and do that today with generative AI. To be a video editor, I think you can be an okay video editor in 5 or 10 hours. People used to be good at those jobs would take about 5 years, and to be excellent at that job would take 10. I think right now it takes 5 hours, 5 days to be good at that job, and to be excellent at it, it's down to maybe a year. Developer, probably 10 years to be a world-class developer, or 5 years to be a good developer. I think that's going to drop down to 1 in 3 years. That's pretty dramatic when you think about efficiencies. And robots in the home are coming. This is because these components are getting so cheap, the founders are getting so creative, the capital is there, and when you attach them to an LLM, it gets really easy. Watching a human fold clothes is something that you would have to manually code previously. Now you can just have the robot do what it saw people do, which is essentially what Elon's doing with his FSD program, which is why it's not perfect yet. He's going for the generalized solution as opposed to the specific solution that Waymo's achieved. And you can see that this is the Neo Gamma. They're selling these. I don't want one, but they're for sale now, and they're being delivered. This one I do want. It's a Loom robotic lamp. So when it starts, it's a lamp, and then it does this. And this is from a credible founder, Fold and Close. They're taking pre-orders. This came out this week. And I get pitches for 10 different ones of these, every week, maybe 10 a week. I'll go a little bit into media. The substackification of media is well underway. If you look at the people who've been fired from MSNBC, CNN, and New York Times, or I think Paul Krugman said he was kind of forced out, it was untenable. They're all making as much money, more, going solo, but they also own the equity value of their companies, which they owned 0 of previously. So if Paul Krugman can make the same amount of money and own 100% of his Substack, or Megyn Kelly now is hiring a bunch of people, then we look at entertainment. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have their own studio. Eli Roth, who does a bunch of horror genre flicks, great director, he just did a crowdfunding to do his own studio, and Tyler Perry, as many of you know, has his own studio, owns his own IP. Bill Simmons is a great example. Early on to podcasting, sold to got fired from ESPN, did the Ringer, then got bought by Spotify, and he probably has a 4th act in him. Look for that to happen in other careers as well. I want to talk a little bit about copyright. This is where David Sachs and I are in a big battle right now. He believes that you should be able to train and steal everybody's content, as many technologists do, to train AIs. I believe you should respect IP and copyright, and if everybody's content. And to say like, oh, we have to beat China, therefore we have to steal, which the president said last week, I don't buy that either. I think that's just technologists being technologists. And if you look at the lawsuits between Disney and some of the other video creators, here's an example of what Disney Plus is going to do. You all go to Disney Plus, you'll say, oh, you want to be a Jedi? Yeah, upload an image, and it'll just make you into a Jedi, and then it will put you in a story. And the day they do this, now they will win their lawsuits, hands down, very quickly. Socialism's on the rise. People are really scared about a post-job world. You're supposed to be able to go to college and get a job. And if you can't get a job, you'll just ask for a handout. And that's where we get to Generation Toolbelt and the elites. I saw the statistic in FT last week. Maybe some of you saw it as well. I pay for FT. I think it's high quality. And what you see here is 2 charts. The gap is, this is men. I'm not going to get like old Jordan Peterson about men and like who's taking care of these boys. Like who's thinking about the men? Guys, like that's pretty good. It's like a good Kermit the Frog / I got to work it. I got to work on it. But that massive gap there was the college degree versus the non-college degree. And what you see is they've just had the flippening. Going into debt for $100,000 or $200,000 gives you no advantage anymore in getting a job if you're a man. If you're a woman, it does. But anyway, here we are. And you know what happens when men don't have jobs and it hits 20% unemployment? Egypt, Greece, Spain, you remember when they were burning things down and rioting in the streets? That was because 20% unemployment amongst men. That's why what's happening in New York is happening in New York. And even worse is the end of apprenticeships. It's so much easier to hire somebody than so much easier to automate than hire. Has anybody had this experience where you're like, we need to hire somebody to do this, and then somebody in the room says, I think I can automate it. Anybody have that experience this year? Okay, this is the experience we're all going to be having, which is like writing the job description and interviewing people. We might as well just make an agent. And Andrew Yang pointed this out, where like some law firms are like, I can get this done without a first to third year associate, annoying me. This is a serious problem, and I don't have an exact solution for it, but I do have some predictions. And this is also going to happen with Generation Tool Belt and entry-level jobs. Every time we put a self-driving car on the road, we're going to lose 4 jobs, and if you put a robot in, we lose 6. Somebody asked me where I got the statistic from, and I said, math. A self-driving car can run for 23 hours a day, and a shift for a driver is 12 hours. And in factories, it's 7 hours, so you can just do the math, folks. But we don't want to talk about that in the technology industry, because we're going to benefit from it, and we're going to build bunkers in Kauai, and we're all going to hang out in Zuck's bunker when they bring the guillotines out. End of education is coming. This cat on the left celebrated his graduation recently by holding up ChatGPT, which he said helped him do it. And then on the right, this student at Columbia created a way to cheat when you're being interviewed over Zoom. I don't know if anybody saw the video. It's Cluely is the company. Basically, you're looking at a teleprompter on your computer, and when you're taking a developer test, it's listening to the question and giving you the answer, and then you just read the teleprompter. And then there are people who are overworked, who are working 3 jobs doing this technique. They just get hired immediately. So the universities are failing. But what all this is going to lead to is a startup tsunami. All of these tools are available to help you build a startup. And that's the thing I know most. If I have an area of expertise, it's startups in year 0. We're seeing 3 or 4 person companies or teams come to us. They're not incorporated, and they have finished products. 5 years ago, they came to us, and they had raised $150,000 in friends and family. They come to our accelerator, and their product's almost finished, and we help them finish it. So we're going to see 10 times as many startups, because the programming language of the future is English. Anybody who speaks English is going to be able to write viable code in the next 3 years. What that means is just going to be a Cambrian explosion. I don't know what that means. I looked it up this morning. It's basically, when oxygen happened, you had a lot more diversity of species. I've just been saying it for years because it sounds smart. But the Cambrian explosion, basically in startups. Everybody can do it. Here we go. And the distribution deluge is starting. This year, we finally had IPOs. The wrath of Lena Khan's over, Circle, eToro, CoreWeave. Next up, Figma is definitely, who knows when SpaceX and Stripe come out, but this is going to start the entire flywheel over again. We're going to see massive amounts of distributions, which means massive amounts of future investment. But the energy endgame is upon us right now. When I was in DC last week, got into a little bit of a rift with one of the folks in the administration who was telling me clean coal was cheaper than unreliable energy sources. And I said, you keep saying unreliable intermittent energy sources. Why don't you say solar? And he was like, well, it's like clean coal. And I was like, yeah, I know the president told you to keep saying clean coal, but you're lying. It's cheaper to put a solar plant in with batteries than it is to build a coal plant. It's just a fact. And then I realized, I've made the critical error. I'm speaking with politicians thinking I'm speaking with founders and capital allocators, where truth is what matters. And the truth is, solar and wind are already 30 to 50% of the mix. In the great state of Texas, where I now live, we have many days where 30% of the energy is coming from those two. The people in Texas are not fans of renewable energy. They're making a very pragmatic decision. That's oil country. They just know that solar and batteries are cheaper, and Trump loves nukes. I was talking to Lutnick, as a name drop, backstage and at this event last week, and he was saying all that money from Japan that we're getting, like this hundreds of billions of dollars in investment, he's like, I think I'm going to build 10 nukes. I'm going to put nukes everywhere. These guys are on it. In 6 months, you may not like them. You may not like Trump and his style, but they're dialed in. She really doesn't like them. He's rolling her eyes at me. But drill, baby, drill is on. Trump loves nukes. Nukes solve all these problems, and fusion works. So I'm giving you permission. We don't need to talk about global warming. We don't need to talk about energy. It's already too expensive to pull oil out of the ground at $60 a barrel in the oil sands, et cetera. It's going to be hilarious to think that you're going to pull coal or oil out of the ground when these nuclear power plants come up. France has been 70 to 80% nuclear forever because they're pragmatists and they don't want to have any affiliation with any other country. Self-directed healthcare is something I'm super fascinated by, and I think this is the future. It's driven by two things. One, all this new technology allows you to take control of your healthcare. How many people would say that they've taken control of their healthcare over their GP? How many people feel they're directing it? Nice and high. How many people are letting their GP direct their healthcare? Raise your hand. Well, then what the are the other people doing? Oh, you just don't give a about your health? That's really weird. But about half the audience said they're self-directing. This is the big trend. People are getting their own blood drawn. They're using superpower to do that. And what's the other one? Peter knows. Diamante? Function Health, thank you. Whoop, or all this stuff. I mean, it's pretty simple, folks. If you want to have a great health span, it's like GLPs, which will be in pill form next year, and they're going to be free and ubiquitous, and they have it's a wonder drug, and I believe it. Peptides. Just get enough sleep and monitor your sleep. Eat healthy, exercise, meditate. You're good. You're going to live a long time. And then there's going to be all these compounding effects that are right behind it. Peter Diamandis will talk about that on the panel. He's an expert. But if you're under 70 years old in this room, certainly if you're under 60, your health span's going to get closer to 100. Health span is like, can you ski? I was on a ski lift with an 80-year-old recently. They're at North Star. They're literally a guide. They're a teacher, 80 years old. That's all I care about is how many years of skiing do I have left? And lifespan probably 120. And it's one party now. It's the grand old Democratic Party. So for everybody who's really obsessed with these parties, there's no difference. There's no difference. They spend $2 trillion a year and they blow up other countries. That's it. They're one party. Trump was not supposed to increase spending, he was supposed to cut it. He's going to put $2 trillion on the debt every year. We'll see. He says he's not going to. I'm going to go with the bet of he still puts $2 trillion. And in the first 6 months he was in office, he bombed Iran, and he's giving our latest weapons to Ukraine. So if you think there's any difference between these folks, there's not. There's just the signaling. And in fact, in order for Trump to win his second term, he took over the moderate Democrats. All the Clinton Democrats and coastal elites work for Trump now, including Trump, who's a lifelong Democrat. RFK, Democrat. Bessent, Lutnick, my pal Chamath, who re-underwrote, he's a moderate Democrat. Joe Rogan. They're always talking about how do you get Joe Rogan? We need a Joe Rogan for the Democratic Party. It's like, you had one. His name was Joe Rogan. He was a Bernie bro. Bruh, that bro was a Bernie bro. So it's time for a new party. That's my belief. I think we have a unique window in the midterms, and I think it should be a reasonable party that balances the budget and reduces the debt. Neither of the parties we have are capable of doing this, nor will they change. They're captured. And less government, more free markets. People keep saying they're for this. They're not. They pretend they are. And we will get abundance. Shout out to Peter for coining that term. And needs-based immigration. We all want to have a closed border. We don't want to see people suffering on the border. We should have it correlate with the needs we have as a country. And we should be aggressively recruiting people. There's another difference I have with the Trump administration. They secretly don't believe what they're saying about deporting 20 million people. That's like Stephen Miller, and that's red meat for the base. What they really care about is just more jobs on the margin, energy independence. And then I think we have to get back to personal responsibility and dogged self-reliance, the core American traits that got us here. We have to figure out how to get young people to believe this again, that they're personally responsible for their careers and for their lives, and that they can do that by just being doggedly self-reliant. We have a generation that wants handouts, and it's all of our faults because we're just too soft with our kids. I was a latchkey kid. I explained to my daughters how I was raised as a kid, and they're like, is that legal? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, your parents told you to leave the house at 8 a.m., there was no summer camp in Brooklyn, and you had to come back on when the street lamps came on. The street lamps were tied to the sunset. I said, yeah. And they said, what would you do? I'd say, oh, we would go bomb trains with graffiti. We'd go up to like Coney Island. We'd go to the Bronx. We would hop the turnstiles. We would steal paint. We'd do it out. I mean, we were punks. And they're like, oh, it's so cool. And they're like, so my twins came to me. They're 9 years old. And they're like, can you kick us out of the house today? I was like, absolutely. Get out. And they said, what if we have to pee? And I said, figure it out. I'm locking all the doors. You can't come back in for 2 hours. They went out and had the best time of their lives. And I said, did you have to pee? They said, yeah, we nature peed. I live on a horse ranch. Like, there's lots of places you go pee. Figure it out. All right, I'm Jason Calacanis. Thank you for listening to it. And if you have complaints about anything I said right now, KPMG would love to hear them. Thank you for having me.